The journey of boAtheads started in Delhi during late 2010. The smartphone had already become everyone's music player, camera and messenger. But every few months, a small thing kept annoying people. A frayed iPhone charging cable. Two friends, Aman Gupta and Sameer Mehta, kept hearing the same complaint from friends and customers. Instead of chasing a big shiny product, they decided to fix this simple, daily pain. Their first bet wasn't a fancy headphone. It was an indestructible Apple-certified cable. Tough, braided, built to survive thousands of bends. The message was as direct as the product. Switch to a cable that doesn't break. It worked. Reviews were good, returns were low, and word spread fast. A scrappy Facebook ad with a picture of a torn cable and a simple promise did more than any grand brand film could. That's how boAtheads set sail, by making one small but stubborn problem go away. From that cable, the founders learned their first big lesson. In India, value is not only about low price. It is price x pride. So when they moved to earphones and headphones, they made them look cool, feel sturdy, and sound bass forward. The early boAtheads line did not pretend to be studio gear. It promised punch and style for daily travel and late-night playlists. Distribution was simple but powerful. Be where India already shops: Amazon, Flipkart, and later their own site. So a teenager in Indore and a college student in Guwahati could get the same deal the same day, and they gave their buyers a name: boAtheads, turning customers into a club that wore the brand almost like streetwear. The brand even walked the Lakme Fashion Week runway with designer Kunal Rawal, underlining that boAtheads wanted to live in wardrobes and Instagram feeds, not just in specs sheets. As the community grew, boAtheads' choices stayed practical. Rather than build factories from scratch, they partnered with experienced electronics makers under India's Make in India push. In 2021-22, boAtheads formed a joint venture with Dixon Technologies to design and manufacture wireless audio in India. That proved to be a turning point. Shorter lead times, faster launches, and better control on quality. By August 2024, boAtheads said it had crossed 50 million made in India products, with roughly 70-75% of audio and wearables now produced locally. The signal was clear. If you want to be big in India, make more of your products in India. The market too was changing. Neckbands gave way to true wireless earbuds. Smartwatches exploded. Then the entire wearables wave settled into a steady mass market. Through these shifts, boAtheads kept a wide catalog. TWS buds for commuters, rugged speakers for small house parties, and smartwatches that did the basics: steps, sleep, notifications, at prices that didn't scare first-time buyers. It wasn't about winning the highest audiophile award. It was about giving youth a brand they could buy without asking three friends first. The results showed up in share numbers. In calendar year 2024, boAtheads led India's overall wearables market with about 27.6% share, up from 6% the year before. According to IDC, no small feat in a category crowded with global and local rivals. The smartwatch subcategory has been more volatile. Leadership has switched between top players, and by mid-2025, growth slowed and rankings moved quarter by quarter. But at a brand level, boAtheads stayed near the top in wearables and firmly in the conversation in TWS. Growth brings new tests. In an April 2024, reports surfaced of a major data breach affecting boAtheads customers. It was a tough reminder that when you sell millions of devices and run large e-commerce operations, cyber hygiene is as critical as battery life. The episode led to sharper scrutiny from the tech press and online communities, pushing the brand to strengthen security and communication. trust built over years can be dented in days. The only remedy is transparent action and tighter systems. Money Matters told their own story. The parent company, Imagine Marketing Limited, reported standalone revenue from operations of about Rs 38 million for FY 2023-24. The same audited statements flagged cash losses in FY 2024, smaller than the previous year, which explains why boAt kept a close eye on working capital, procurement, and inventory turns even in high-growth years. In other words, this wasn't a burn cash to buy growth story. It was a sweat the supply chain and keep prices sharp story. Drive.alteusinvestec.com. And then there is the capital markets chapter. In January 2022, boAt filed for an IPO but sat out a choppy period. In April 2025, it re-entered via the confidential pre-filing route. And on September 2, 2025, reports said SEBI had approved the confidential DRHP, putting the company on a clearer road to listing, with time to pick its moment. For a brand that grew up on marketplaces, a public listing would be a symbolic next step. Move from a youth favorite to a household name company that pension funds can own. So, what exactly has been boAt's strategy under the hood? Start with a tight lens on everyday friction. Cables that fail, buds that fall out, watches that look clunky. And solve it with honest design. Keep the price-value equation obvious. So obvious that a first-time buyer feels clever choosing boAt. Build a community voice, boAtheads, that makes technology feel like fashion. Borrow scale smartly. Use contract manufacturing and JVs to speed up without losing control. And keep launching. Small refreshes, seasonal colors, collabs. So there's always a reason to visit the storefront again. Of course, the sea is not always calm. Component costs can whipsaw margins. Marketplace algorithms can change traffic overnight. A weak monsoon or a macro dip can suddenly slow discretionary spends on gadgets. And in wearables, trends shift fast. A year of square cases and silicone straps can suddenly give way to round dials and metal bracelets. If you're late by even one season, you sit on dead stock. That is why boAt keeps a wide but modular catalog. Swap shells, tweak drivers, refresh colors, and carry the same electronics across price points without reinventing the wheel each time. Here's the SWOT, tucked right into the flow. Strengths. boAt's strength is a deep feel for Indian price-value taste. A big vocal community. boAtheads. Wide catalog across audio and wearables. Strong online distribution and fast refresh cycles. Rising local manufacturing via the Dixon JV, which reduces dependence on long imports. Their weaknesses. boAt's weakness includes thin category margins and high price sensitivity. Quality consistency can vary in mass segments. Brand equity still leans youth and value, harder to charge premium. Reputation risks from security incidents or high return rates. Opportunities. boAt has the opportunity to move up the ladder with mid-premium audio and watches. Export to regions with similar price bands. Blend hardware with better health features, AI assistance, and app services. Deepen offline retail experience. Build on Made in India goodwill and even integrate homegrown chips over time. Threats. boAt's threat is from aggressive rivals. Noise, Fire-Boltt, Bolt, Xiaomi, and global audio names. Supply chain shocks. Category slowdowns like the smartwatch Gishing. Cool off. Platform dependence on a few online marketplaces. Regulatory pushes on data privacy and repairability that raise costs. If we zoom back to the beginning, you can see how the first move shaped the culture. That stubborn cable taught boAt to build for daily life, not for brochure glory. The cable ad taught them that a sharp promise beats a shiny celebrity. Though later, celebrities helped the brand reach scale. The bass heads taught them to tune sound to Indian tastes, not to copy Western reviews. The JV taught them that speed and control come from the supply chain as much as from the marketing team. And the breach taught them that digital trust is part of the product, even if you can't hold it in your hand. A few anchor numbers help fix the picture. Founded in 2010, first product, an Apple-certified tough charging cable, led India's overall wearables market in 2024 with roughly 27% share. FY 2024 standalone revenue around Rs 31,038 million. Crossed 50 million made in India units by August 2024. And as of September 2025, the confidential IPO filing had SEBI's nod. In short, from a cable in a crowded market to a top-tier consumer tech brand that ships tens of millions of devices a year. What about the people behind the numbers? One reason boAt speaks like a friend is that its founders did the unglamorous work. Distribution, returns, customer feedback before they scaled the voice. They weren't afraid to borrow a good idea like braided cables and make it better for Indian use. They didn't try to suddenly beat Apple or Sony at their own game. They built where those giants didn't look. The huge middle of India that wants dependable, good-looking gear under Rs 2,000 pound Rs 3,000. That discipline of knowing who you serve kept boAt from drifting into every shiny new category. As the brand looks ahead, it faces a different kind of test. How to graduate from great value to great period while keeping prices honest. This could mean better mics and ANC on TWS at mid-prices, brighter and more accurate displays on watches, and software that doesn't nag, glitch, or drain battery. It also means owning more of the stack, battery safety, reliable Bluetooth stacks, and maybe even homegrown silicon. Recent reports of a partnership with an Indian chip startup point to this direction. If boAt can integrate local design and domestic packaging/testing, it strengthens the Made in India promise beyond assembly. That is a long journey, but the direction matters. The brand also has to grow up in data. After 2024's breach reports, boAt will be judged not only on buds and bands, but on encryption, consent, and how fast it patches leaks. For a young audience that lives online, privacy and safety are not legal checkboxes. They're part of brand love. Handle this well, and boAt earns the right to sell more connected devices and app features in the future. Handle it poorly, and the same community that cheered your launches will amplify its doubts. So what can young entrepreneurs and business students take from this voyage? First, start where the pain is obvious and ignored. A cable that breaks is not glamorous, but fixing it proved the brand's instincts and paid for the next bets. Second, design is not decoration. A braided sleeve, a metal plug, a color that breaks the monotony. These tiny touches told buyers, "We made this for you." Third, speed is a strategy. When tastes shift from neckbands to TWS, or from square to round watches, the winners are those who can swap parts, update molds, and push fresh SKUs while keeping quality and returns under control. Fourth, community is compounding. Calling customers boAtheads was not just fun. It turned purchase into identity, and identity into word of mouth. Finally, supply chain is brand. A late shipment, a battery issue, or a QC miss shows up as a 1-star review before it shows up as a P&L line. If your manufacturing partners are strong, your marketing becomes easier. On a quiet evening, if you place that first boAt cable next to a 25 smartwatch, You can trace the same DNA, solve the little irritations, don't overcomplicate the message, and launch again and again until your catalog feels like a playlist. This is not the story of a miracle product. It is the story of thousands of small, good choices, made quickly and made close to the customer. The next big wave: IPO, more in-house tech, and a push into mid-premium won't be won on slogans. It will be won on boring superpowers: forecasting, vendor terms, firmware stability, after-sales service, and clear communication when things go wrong. If boAt keeps those superpowers sharp, the brand that began with a frayed cable could well become India's most consistent ship in choppy consumer tech waters. And if you're building your own brand today, remember the most practical lesson from boAtheads' beginning. Sometimes, the fastest way to earn trust is to fix one small thing so well that people come back and ask, "What else can you make better?"